Hi everyone, welcome to Introduction to CSS. In the last screencast we saw how to write selectors and apply styles to specific tags or elements within your HTML page. We have three basic selectors. The first one was an element selector or a type selector, where we can apply it to any elements provided by HTML like P or A or H1. Similarly, we can also apply or select a specific element without selecting all of it the same type using an ID, which is unique for every element. For example, over here you can see H1 is assigned an ID called newbie. So if I want to use this, I'll use the ID selector, which is putting a hash before newbie. The third one was a class selector, where I can style a group of elements. A class can be shared by multiple elements. So if I want to style this group of elements, I'll put them with the same name of the class. So I can, for example, change the color of all classes, font color of all classes to be applied to all of them who have the same class as this one, which is article. Today we are going to move ahead a little forward and see how we can combine selectors together. As you can see over here, I have prepared a sample page. All looks familiar except that I have introduced a few new tags over here, which is the div tag. Now, div tag is provided with HTML as a way of grouping tags together. As you can see over here, I have a div which starts over here and ends over here. This div is actually composed of all these elements inside it. Similarly, a div can be nested, so that as you can see, I have another div inside this div which starts over here and ends over here, which contains all these H1 and P elements. So a div is a block level element or a container. Let's forget about block level element, so because we'll see what do you mean by a block and an inline element when we look at the different display types of these elements. But for now, think of div as a container where it can contain other tags. It is used for structuring your HTML page, because you can style this block separately from the other block. It's just a way of grouping elements, similar to a class, but it's a tag. So you can actually assign a class to that tag and then use it anywhere you want it. So that's a quick brief introduction to the div tag. Now, this is a sample HTML page that I have created for this exercise now, which can be used for selectors. Now, every page when it comes to a browser is actually created in the form of a tree is generated from this page. Whenever a page comes to the browser, first a tree is constructed and then you start applying or changing properties of that nodes within the tree. Now this tree is referred to as the DOM tree, or a document object model tree. Now I have a simple program over here which actually lets me visualize the DOM tree of a page. Now, for example, as you see this page over here, inside this page I have HTML head, body. Inside body I have a div tag, which is class section, and within that I have P and 3 more divs and all these things. So to visualize this, I need to make sure that which level they lie on. So if you see this, the first one is the HTML. Inside HTML I have head and a body. Inside the body I have a single div which has a class of section, and within that div again I have a paragraph and 3 more nested divs with the class article. So if I expand all of them, you can see that within that div I have H1 and 3 more paragraphs, and the second one I have with the class article also have H1 and A, and the last one also has H1 and P. So this is the tree that is generated. So this is usually the body is the root node over here. Then we have the first level is the div only. Inside that I have the second level, which is P, div, and this div. And then at the third level I have all these elements within those levels. So I have this is the root node, this is the first level, second level, and the third level, and you can actually go on more and more. But this is the visualization. This is the tree. This is usually the DOM tree that appears in your page. which is seen by the browser and starts manipulating it. Now let's see why this tree is important for us today. Now today we're going to see something called as combinators. Now combinators in CSS usually work something like this. You can combine two selectors together using these special characters. Now what do these special characters means? Let's see them. The first combinator that we are going to see is a comma. Suppose I want to apply a style to two different, for example, I want to apply the style to, let's say, a paragraph tag and the anchor tag, or let's say, yeah, let's stick to the paragraph tag and the anchor tag. So these two are different tags. Suppose I want to change the font size of these two. Now usually what we do is we do something like this. But for example, paragraph, I want to change the size, we use the element selector P simply, and then for example I'll say font size, and then I'll, for example, increase that to 20 pixels, and then I close it. Similarly, if I say I want to apply the same style to another element, I'll just put A, and then I'll do the same. Okay, this will work fine. You can just go back and let's visualize how it looks like. Okay, let's restart that and see if it works now. It usually takes 1 or 2 tries to actually get it back running. Okay, that's annoying. Okay, so you can see now that I have increased the size of all our paragraphs over here, and also the same increase in the size as applied to the A tag. I'm using the same property but to different selectors. Now we don't have to repeat ourselves over here. Okay, so we don't have to repeat ourselves over here. So if we don't want to repeat, if you have using the same selectors and we don't want to repeat them one by one, we can just use the selector I just showed you, which is a comma, which is exactly the same. So this time, for example, I'll change the font size to 20 pixel, and you can see that it's still the same. Okay, similarly, if I want to apply the same thing like a color to red, I'll get the same thing over here. See, all of them are red now. So the first combinator is a comma. It is used to combine multiple selectors together. You can go ahead and combine more of them. It's not just limited to this. You can actually go ahead and combine more selectors as you like. That we apply to all of them now. So you see, it can combine any one of them, but it has to be separated by a comma. So this is the first one, which is combination of selectors. You can actually apply similar set of styles to multiple selectors by putting a comma between their name. This just don't have to be elements. You can actually apply it to IDs, or for example over here I had an ID which is hash newbie, which is actually like for the one H1 only instead of all the H1s. So you can go ahead and see that only this H1 is affected and these remain the same. So you can actually combine ID, class, or a normal element selector using the comma. Okay, so that's clear. Let's go to the next one. Let's say now I am going to show you what this means. Now there are two different types of selectors when it comes to the tree of the DOM tree of your HTML page. This is called the child selectors and the sibling selectors. Siblings usually referred to as brothers or sisters or children from the same parent, or over here in DOM tree, which will refer to as at the same level. Children usually means that anything below it. So for example, if you look at the DOM tree over here, we can see that, for example, if I ask you all children of body, which will be all these these divs and everyone inside it. So if I ask you only children of div with class section, it will include all this again. So if I ask you again div with class article, it will be all this, this and this, because they are of the same class. Okay. Now there are two different types of child selectors we have over here. One is called the descendant selector and the other one is called direct children. Now descendant selector usually means that it will select all descendants, not direct, all children's and grandchildren's. So it's not specific to any child, so it can select all children's. On the other hand, we have a direct children, that means only selecting the direct children of direct. That means it's only one level below them, not all levels, but one level below them. So we use this greater than sign between them. How to use them, I'll show you in the next slide. The other one is the sibling, or at the same level. That means we're not going to children now, we are looking for siblings or at the same level. Now there are two again types of sibling selectors. We have a general sibling selector, which is use this sign called tilde. So that means all siblings, not specific to any sibling, but all siblings. The other one we have over here is adjacent siblings, where this one refers to as all, only the one beside you, only the one next to you, not beside, say next to you. Okay, so this will only select the next coming selector of that type. So if I use plus, it will select the immediate tag beside it. So these are the four selectors that are applied to the tree, the DOM tree, which I was speaking about earlier. Now let's see one by one how they can be applied. Okay, now we saw that we have this DOM tree constructed from our HTML page. Now suppose if I ask you to apply a style to all P's of all paragraphs within the div with class section. That means it will apply to all this P, because this P is the direct one, but these P's over here inside are the grandchildren. So if I want to apply to all of them, so I should use the descendant selector and not the normal child selector that I showed you. So we have two of them, so space, just a space between them. Now how to use them? Now how to use child or sibling selectors? We first put the reference element, that is I have to start from some point and then select all the childs or all the siblings of that selector, or a specific adjacent siblings, or only the direct children. So there is a reference element. So the first item that you put in this selector is the reference element. After that you put the combinator symbol. As you can see over here, we have different symbols for each of them: spaces, greater than, tilde, or plus. We put the symbol over here. After that we put the element that we want to select, that we want to apply the style to. Okay, so this is the way we use these selectors, the combinator selectors for child and sibling. We put the reference element first, we put the combinator, and then we put the element to select, and then we put the rules within the brackets. Now let's go ahead and let's see how we can apply it to them. Now suppose the first thing I asked you was that I want to select all paragraphs inside, or let's say within, all paragraphs within or under the div with class section. Okay, so over here if you read this statement properly, you will see that I'm talking about all paragraphs. So this becomes, this becomes my element to select. If you look at this, this becomes my element to select, which is P. Now all paragraphs, so it's P. Within or under, so when I say all, that means it's a descendant selector, because I am not specifying to a specific level. I'm saying all under the div with class ID. So this div with class section, will become my reference element, which is this. So let's say I want to apply a style to this class section. That means I'll use the class selector, which is dot section. Well, I need to close my comment. So this is my reference element. After that I put a space, then I have to put the combinator. Now since I said that I want to select all of them, all paragraphs, the selector is just a space, plain space. A space, let's stick to one space, and then I want to select all paragraphs. So the next item, the element to select, is the paragraph, so it's P only. Suppose I want to apply, let's say background color, which gives a background color to it. Say yellow, it's like a highlighter that we use. Background color of yellow. Also go back and see all P's are selected no matter which level. See, this is the direct one only. We'll see in a little while what happened. So these ones over here are all P's. You can see over here in our DOM tree that these are our all P's. We have like the first P, these are the 3 P's within this, and this one is the last one. So we selected all P's no matter which level they are, all of them inside the class section. Suppose I change my question right now. Instead of asking you the question, select all paragraphs within this, I'll say select all paragraphs, select only direct paragraphs under the div with class section. So this means I'm just looking for, if you look at the DOM tree, I'm just looking for this paragraph which is under the class section. All these are grandchildren. All these are within more levels inside. I want the direct only, direct paragraph only. Okay. So suppose I want to say this. This means first I'll have to put my reference element, which is again the section. Then I have to put the combinator over here, which you can see from our slide is a greater than symbol. A greater than symbol. And after that we have to put the element to select, which is again the paragraph. So this way, suppose I want to change the font color. This time I want to change the font color to, let's say, red. Red is already taken, so let's say I want to change it to green. Okay, so this way I'm looking at this. So if we go back, I'll see that only this one is changed the color, not all of them. Only this one has changed. Now I'm looking for only direct children and not for all children. So this is the difference. If I ask you all children, you will use a space between as a combinator symbol. But if I ask you only the direct children of it, then you would use the symbol greater than. So these are the child selectors. These are the 2 child selectors available for us. Now let's move on to the sibling selectors. In sibling selectors you have 2 more, general and adjacent. As you can see in our DOM tree again, like we have many siblings. For example, if I ask you paragraphs of, let's say, H1, so it will be all these paragraphs and this paragraph, because these paragraphs are all siblings of H1. But suppose I want to say only direct siblings, then I'll have to select this one only, which is near to H1. Let's go ahead and see that. Now suppose I ask you, let's put the question over here. Let's put again, let's select this, and this time I want to put select, let's say, all siblings of div, not div, let's say all siblings of H1 with ID newbie. So if you go back to our HTML page, you will see that this is the H1 with ID newbie, and I want to select all siblings. So siblings means at the same level. In the DOM tree you see H1, the same level means these 3 P's. So all sibling paragraphs. I have to mention that because this is the element to select, because it depends on that. So select all sibling paragraphs of H1 with ID newbie. So the first element is the reference element, which is our newbie ID, which is written like this. Then I want to put the symbol, the combinator symbol I have to use. If you go back to our slide, you can see that for all siblings, I will have to use this tilde sign. Okay, I use that tilde sign over here, and then I have to select my reference element to select, which is the paragraph. So I put the paragraph over here. This time I go inside. Let's say I want now to increase the font size. Okay, or let's say I want to say the font style to italics. So let's go back, and you will see that I'll have applied the italics to all the paragraphs within it. See, it didn't affect this paragraph, it didn't affect this paragraph, because I said that I want to apply italics to only all those siblings of this. This is the ID with newbie, and I want to apply all this. It will not be applied to the parent. It will not be applied to the reference element. It will be applied to all elements that I want to select. So over here you can see I want to apply all sibling paragraphs of H1 with ID newbie with the style of italics. So we use this combinator. This is my reference element, and this becomes my element to select. Now let me again change the question. This time I want to select adjacent sibling. Now adjacent means I want to only select the one beside it. So if I ask you adjacent to, let's say adjacent to H1 is not all these paragraphs, only the one beside it. Okay, only the one beside it. So let's go ahead and see how it looks like. Now the symbol to use is plus. Now again, the reference elements will remain the same. We have newbie, and which is my adjacent selector, and let's say P. Now this time I'm going to say font to make it underline. So in underline you usually use text decoration and say underline over here. Okay, now I want to underline the selector over here. Now let's go back and see how it looks like. Because I'm using the adjacent only, it should not be applied to all paragraphs. It should be only applied to the direct paragraph of newbie. So if I go on and see my output, you can see that only this one is underlined, because this one is directly adjacent to this. So this one is directly adjacent, and these ones are all general siblings. So this one is the direct sibling, these ones are the general siblings. Okay, so these are the combinators that we have. We can use a comma to apply the same style to multiple elements. We can use a space to apply a style to all children, irrespective of the level. They can be in any level. We can use greater than symbol to apply it to only the direct children. We can use a tilde to apply styles to all siblings or all elements within the same level, or we can use the plus symbol to apply it only to the one beside it. Okay, so as you can see, these are the selectors that we did. We have the comma, that means it can be applied to all these three, these styles. Then we have this one over here is, let me just go ahead and write the example so that it will be good to remember them. That would be over here is my descendant selector. Which means all children. Okay, that's my descendant selector. Similarly, I'll have to go ahead over here, and this one, which is greater than symbol, is used for only direct children. Usually it's called as child selector. We don't say child selector, or we can say it's direct children or all direct children. Okay, similarly over here, this one becomes my sibling selector, or is referred to as general sibling selector, where we want to select all siblings or all elements at the same level. And then the last one, which is this one, we go ahead and put this one is called the adjacent sibling selector, which is only element beside the reference element. Okay, so this is the definition of all those selectors. Just put them for the reference over here. Okay, that's about it. That's how we saw this particular CSS file and applying the different combination of selectors and see which one gets selected. Okay then.